In this video, you will learn how to join the granny squares together with a quick and easy slip stitch seaming method, all done with the crochet hook. My approach may be a little unorthodox, but the result is crisp and neat. On the front, it leaves a slight ridge which accentuates the squares, yet from the back it lays quite flat. This method is particularly useful when the final edge of the motif has no spacing between the stitches or when the border has already been added to the motif. In fact, you start with a bunch of finished squares. The polka dot motif is a perfect example of both situations. So let's begin. To start, we will be joining the first two rows. The right side of each motif should be facing you as you join the motifs. On the polka dot motif, an easy way to identify the right side is to look at the outer edge. If you see two loops on the outer edge, that indicates the right side. If you see only one loop, that indicates the back side. What I'm going to do is I'm going to insert my hook in the chain before the stitch. Now this one looks like it's right on top of it, but technically these two loops here belong to this stitch. If you were looking at it from this side, you can see it better. This stitch lines up with those two loops. This is the first chain. So you want to make sure you get right into that first chain over there. On this side, these belong, this stitch, these two loops belong to this first stitch. So I want to go in the chain before, but I don't want to come from the back. Here I came in from the back under that loop to the front. On this one, I want to come in from the front to the back. And that is very important to get that first stitch right. Watch again. I'm coming from the back, from the front side to the back under that front loop. Then I'm coming from the front to the back under that front loop on this one. So I'm doing the exact same thing, but they're one's upside down. So I'm pulling a loop through both of those, and I'm chaining one using both strands. That just ties that yarn down. Now, if you can look at this a little bit differently, you can see that I'm holding my yarn kind of behind or in between the two motifs, because now I'm going to go to the very next stitch over here, which is this one here, and going from the front under that front loop, from the front to the back, and then under this first stitch under the front to the back, and that positions my yarn to be behind my hook so that I get a nice clean slip stitch. Now this is loose, but I'm just going to pull that up. We'll weave that end in later. Then you go to the next stitch and pick up that front loop as it's facing the right side, and then you pick up this one and pull through all three loops on the hook. Go to this one. See how I'm coming sort of from the right to the left, and this one's from the left to the right. Maybe that's a better way to explain it. And pull through all three. The next stitch, front right to the left, left to the right, pull through all. I guess that is a good way to explain it, because I find that this is the easiest way to do this join, and it goes quite rapidly, even though we're working with each stitch. So from the row 2 to row 1. From row 2 to the next stitch in row 1. Look how absolutely nice and neat that seam is. And if you notice, it's just as neat on the back side too. and it's flat. Here we go. You don't want it to be too tight either, okay? So you've got to just kind of gauge it. Okay, now we're getting up into the part where we do the chain. We're only doing one chain on each side, and there we go. And a chain one. I've done my chain one there, and I'm going to come over here and find the chain that is just before this one, and it actually looks like it belongs to that one, but it doesn't. And over here I'm going to find the first stitch before, and that one's there. Pull that through, over to this one, over to this one. So I'm just finishing off the last stitches just like before. That's my last stitch. Now I'm doing my chain. And when you get to this point, you just do your chain one, but cut your yarn and then pull that in through. This is going to get woven in along this edge before you put your outer border on. Whenever you have two of these joined together, just two, these will tend to twist. And so you have to be very cognizant of whether they twisted or not before you attach them to another row or have another row attached. And you can see once you get and add a third row on, it doesn't get twisted. We start this exactly the same way as we did all the horizontal ones. But on the verticals, the trick is getting up to this point here. And if you notice, our yarn is behind our work, but it is in front of these joins at the corner. Now we are at the corner. We have one more into the chain over here. So lifted that up. Then we're coming over here and picking up this first chain here and forming our slip stitch. Now we're going to chain one. And this chain, you just jump over the other one like so, and we come over to the chain before the stitch over here, right there, and the chain before the stitch over here, right there. And we just continue on. But the trick is, yarn needs to be behind the work, but in front of the crossover. And chain one to end it off. There we go. Now look how absolutely exquisite these seams are. They're so perfectly square and sharp, yet they're flat. And that is what I'm looking for. If you accidentally get your yarn in front of your hook, my hook is inserted right, but my yarn is in the wrong place. So you'd have to start over in that case. So here, the yarn is between the motifs and behind the hook. Now, if you by chance made a mistake on one of your motifs and you had more or less stitches, there's techniques that you can use. If you had more stitches than you're supposed to, you can ease it in. And how you would ease it in is, let's say you know that you have one more stitch on this one than this one. You would go in this one, and then in this one, and finish your stitch. Then you would go in the next one, and in the same one on this side. And if you do that, it just disappears. You won't even know that it's there. Okay? Likewise, if this side had less, what you would do is you would go into that one, Then go into this one twice and go into the next one from this side. And that eases two of these into one of those. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Please take a moment to subscribe and ring the bell to receive notifications of upcoming videos and events. Happy crocheting!